All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is Dr. Jill Stein. Jill is a physician, a teacher, an environmental health advocate, and of course the presidential candidate for the Green Party. You can find her at jillstein.org. Jill, thank you so much for being on the show again.
It's great to be with you, Matthew.
So Jill, I'd like to start out today discussing the Green Party's goal of trying to break the two-party duopoly, and one of the steps in that long fight would be reaching 5% nationally in the presidential election. If you reached 5%, what exactly would that mean for the Green Party and for democracy in general?
It would be huge because we have this mockery of an election going on with this absolute sham of a debate that, in excluding my voice being on 85% of ballots, in excluding other independent parties, basically the American people are being excluded. Practically 1 out of every 2 voters is expected to stay home, basically saying no to Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. They are not addressing the critical job-crushing, life-threatening, climate-destroying policies that have been driven forward by both Democrats and Republicans. So, it's a long haul here to fight this, but every vote for us, every voice that goes on record in the polls on November 6th is an irrepressible call for the change that we need. If we want change, we've got to vote for it. Now, one of the really, really exciting things going forward is that if we can push past this 5% mark, we don't have to spend 90% of the campaign just getting on the ballot. That's how the system works now. It blocks us from the microphone, but from the very outset, it keeps us off the ballot. We're not grandfathered in, basically the way that the establishment parties are, who can get on the ballot with very few signatures. We have to collect essentially hundreds of thousands of signatures and pour most of our campaign resources just into getting on the ballot and being an option. If we hit 5%, suddenly we have so-called major party status. And in every state where we've reached 5%, we are automatically on the ballot in all of the races beginning the day after the election. So what that means is that we can hit the ground running when we have an opposition campaign for governor or legislature or mayor, any partisan race. We don't have to spend 90% of it just getting on the ballot. We can actually hit the ground running and get the word out about the real issues and the real solutions that the American people are clamoring for. The other really exciting thing is that hitting 5% gives us a $20 million grant from the federal government to use in the next presidential election. That would be like manna from heaven for us. We're used to $500,000 budget, basically,
right,
compared to the $1 billion budget bought and paid for by Wall Street and the usual suspects that go to the Democratic and Republican candidates. So it would be a whole new ball game with more of a level playing field, not a level playing field, but it would indeed give us more of a fighting chance. And given that Americans are being thrown under the bus, already, and will continue to be, because neither Obama nor Romney is offering a single exit strategy on the offshoring of our jobs, the undermining of our wages, the skyrocketing cost of health care, the generation of students who are essentially indentured servants now with these draconian debts. We've got the solutions that the American people are clamoring for. Medicare for all as a health care as a human right that will cover everyone while we save trillions of dollars, ending these so-called free trade agreements that Obama is negotiating right now to continue sending our jobs overseas. It's not just Bain Capital. It's these trade agreements that enable Bain Capital. It's bringing the troops home, downsizing the military. These are all the things that the American public is clamoring for. We've got the solutions. If we hit 5%, it's a whole new world of possibility going forward.
I'm talking to Jill Stein, candidate for president for the Green Party. And again, I think that's something that's so very important is because so a Green Party candidate has to get, it varies by state, but they have to get literally sometimes 5 to 10 times more signatures. The Democrat and Republican, they only have to get maybe, say, 1,000, 2,000 signatures, while the Green Party or any other third party has to get literally, say, like 10 to 20,000. The barrier for third party entry just into politics in general is ridiculous. And the thing that's so important about this is the fact is it wouldn't just be for president. You could also have a Green Party House member, a Green Senate candidate, a Green dog catcher, if you will. I mean, I don't think anyone really elects dog catchers anymore. But the point being that it affects all for the states that reach this watermark. It actually really does make a difference into actually having progressive candidates being able to have access to actually have the ballot, so they don't have to spend all their time and money just getting on the ballot. They can actually go about and try to reach voters and actually spend the time on the campaign instead of taking the time to gather all these signatures.
Exactly, and the numbers are really staggering. In Massachusetts, it's like 10,000 that are required, but because we get challenged and they will throw our signatures out of the count for all kinds of crazy reasons, we have to not simply aim for the 10,000 required. We actually have to get more like 20,000. We've got to get at least twice as many. And in some states, you're not talking about just 10,000. You're talking about 50,000, 60,000, up to 100,000 signatures in some states in order to ensure that you have that margin of error from the signatures that will be thrown out because a middle initial was added. If that middle initial wasn't on your voter registration card, the name is thrown out. I mean, they will see any little detail. Stray pencil marks on a petition sheet can result in the tossing out of 20 signatures and so on. So there's a whole game here. Sometimes they will take us to court in order to challenge these signatures, and then you have the risk of having to pay the court costs for the opposition's lawyers, for the attack dogs on the side of the Democratic Party, which are usually the ones that are taking us to court to try.
That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to point out. That usually, if someone's challenging the Greens, it's not the Republicans who are challenging the Greens. It's usually going to be the Democrats who are challenging the Greens.
Exactly, because they don't want their voters to know that there is a real party and real candidates that actually represent what used to be the values of the Democratic Party. So, they do everything they can to silence democracy. And in fact, in many states, including here in Massachusetts, we have been trying to push an election reform which would put an end to this worry about splitting the vote or dividing the electorate. It's a very simple solution called instant runoff voting. It's also called ranked choice, where you just rank your choices. It allows people to vote their values first, and if your first choice loses, your vote is reassigned to your second choice, more likely a Democrat. And, it would be a win-win all around, ensure that people can actually use their values to drive our democracy forward, because without our values, it's not a democracy. It's just a spin campaign for the corporations that have bought the other candidate. And yet the Democratic Party here in Massachusetts won't let that bill out of committee, because it's very threatening to them to actually enable voters to bring their values to the table when the party has been bought and paid for by Wall Street.